You have to do it by yourself then.
You don't want to do it?
Yeah.
Are you sure you want to do it by yourself? There you go. 1905 by the Philadelphia Tobacco Company. That makes it 109 years old this year. Incredibly old for a wooden carousel to still be alive and running. This carousel was originally placed in Elitch Gardens up in Denver. It's Six Flags now if you are not associated with it. And it stayed there until 1927. In the mid-20s, they started making jumper carousels. So carousels that went up and down. And that's why they decided to get rid of this one. This is stationary, so it just goes in circles. They sold this one to the Kit Carson County Commissioners in 1928 for $1,250. That $1,250 included everything. All 46 hand-carved, hand-painted wooden animals, 45 oil paintings, a 1909 edition Wurlitzer band organ, a 1902 General Electric engine, their trip to get down here from Denver, and even a day's pay for one of the Elitch workers to come down to help them put it back together. So $1,250 covered a lot. But back then, that was a lot of money to spend, and the people were furious at the commissioners for buying this carousel. They thought their tax dollars had just went down the drain. It was a huge waste of money to them. But the kids loved it, and that was the most important part. Although the three commissioners who bought it, Mr. Huntley, Mr. Buchanan, and Mr. Messenger, lost their jobs over this carousel. Yeah. They finished out their term. One of them tried to get reelected and he failed. The other two were just like, nope, they're mad. We're not even going to get it. So they decided not to run. It ran here for just a few years until the Great Depression and the Dust Bowl. And when those two things hit this area, they decided to shut down the Kit Carson County Fair. So they went ahead and they shut the carousel down along with it. They shut the 12-sided building, and then they filled this with grand hand corn stalks. The carousel was not moved, so all that stuff sat right on top of it. This became a grain silo with a carousel inside for almost 7 years, and this was used for surplus grain. So people were in here all the time, putting grain in, taking it out just as much as they needed it. 1937 rolled around, and times had gotten better, so they decided to open up Kit Carson County Fair and carousel for 1938. They opened up the carousel building, took all of the grain, hay, and corn stalks out, and then they looked around the carousel to look at the damage. They found out that the mice and the rats had eaten the tubing on the Wurlitzer band organ, so that no longer worked. The paintings had been torn, the animals had been damaged. There was a lot of damage done to this carousel. And people said, you know what, we didn't want it in the first place, and we spent way too much money on it the first time, so go ahead and just burn it down. We're not going to put any more time or money into it. But a few locals got together and they decided to fix it up for the kids. They came in with hot soapy buckets of water, washed all of the animals down, and then they put layers of varnish over all of them. For the paintings that were badly torn, they got nails and 2x4s and they put them back up. And like I said, the band organ did not work because the tubes had been eaten. So they went ahead and they bought a record player instead. You listen to mostly country western music during your ride, but that is better than no music at all. So it ran in that kind of condition until 1976. Each year the animals got a new layer of varnish, and usually there was a new record for the record player. 76 is when they decided to restore the carousel. They formed what is known as the Carousel Association that's still up and running today. They started with the band organ since it had been silenced for so many years. They called a man named Art Reblitz, and he did a partial restoration in the 70s, full restoration in about the 90s. So now the band organ looks and sounds the exact same as it would in 1909. The paintings were restored next. They were restored by a man in Denver, and he stretched them, put them on the back of a canvas, did touch-ups on the paint if needed. The paintings have 95 to 98% original paint. The animals were, of course, restored next. They were restored by the art curator's apprentice who did the paintings. His name is Will Morton. So Will came down to Burlington with his family, and he restored all 46 animals. He used cotton balls and Q-tips to take off all those layers of varnish off of the animals, and that's the biggest thing he used was a little tiny cotton ball. So it's understandable why it took him 2 years to do it. And again, he would do touch-ups on the paint if needed, but he really tried not to touch the paint. He wanted to leave that original factor. The animals have 90 to 95% original paint, depending on the one you look at. Some of them have more damage than others. The restoration process took 25 years and almost $2.5 million, but it was well worth it in the end. We call it the heart of Kit Carson County. Do you guys have any questions?
That was very good.
Thank you. So let me just tell you the rules real quick. So our number one rule is we ask that you don't switch animals. So make sure you walk around and find that one special one to ride. Our wear and tear is mostly on the C area, and we would like to save that paint from 1905. We ask that you don't hold on to the reins, so only hold on to the brass pole. A lot of them were just polished, so very clean. We ask that you only sit face forward, no backwards or side saddle, no trick riding, so make sure that you only sit face forward. Stay seated for the whole entire ride, and we don't have any little kids, so if you have water, so just sit on the sill. You can ride by yourself, right? See? You don't need anybody to help you. Alright, so you guys can come on in and you can put those tokens in the gumball machine. I'm going to open this one. There we go.
Daddy, come on.
You ready to ride?
Yeah.